Welcome to this week's Recruiting Corner Football Edition. I'm Julie Boudwin, and joining me today is NOLA.com and Times-Picayune's recruiting guru, Jimmy Smith. Welcome back to the studio. I actually haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a little minute, good to be back here.
Yeah. Let's get straight to this recruiting thing.
Absolutely.
We're going to start today's show with an out-of-state prospect, defensive end, Dylan Jackson, who is a Tennessee commitment, but LSU has shown some interest in him as of recently. Just tell me a little bit about what that situation's like. Could he flip? And how do you see him fitting in with the defensive ends that the Tigers already have? And before you answer that question, we're going to just throw up a quick little chart here. The current defensive ends at LSU. And just tell me a little bit how Dylan would fit in with these guys here.
A lot of the younger defensive linemen they have outside of Deshawn Bauer, a little undersized, 6'2", 6'3" range, on the thinner side of things. Dylan Jackson's a 6'6", 250-pound defensive end right now as a high school senior. LSU was able to get him in for an official visit this past weekend against the game at Kentucky, and from what I'm hearing, he had a great time. Really connected with the coaching staff. They laid a plan out for him at LSU, and it really appealed to him and his family. The whole situation with Tennessee kind of shakes out like this. A lot of people think that he might be an offensive tackle at the next level. That's something he doesn't want to hear. LSU's recruiting him as a defensive end. He's heard a lot of whispers that Tennessee might have plans to move him to the offensive side of the ball, which is making him a little uneasy with his commitment. So I think LSU's in a really good position right now, about as good as you can be when recruiting a commitment to another school.
Yeah. And when do you see all of this playing out? Is this something that's going to go all the way till National Signing Day, or do you expect, him to announce something, if anything, before then?
When you're an out-of-state kid committed to an in-state school, it's really hard to withdraw your commitment prior to National Signing Day. You're going to get a lot of heat, a lot of pressure from people around you, whether it's friends, family, media, everybody. So a lot of those kids really try to keep it close. Wouldn't surprise me if it was a very late switch and he did very few interviews leading into it. But it also wouldn't surprise me if in the next week or two, if he kind of sits with his family and decides this is what he wants to do and just kind of put it behind him and make that move and get it over with. So it'll be interesting to see. If it doesn't happen in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I would think it's going to be closer to National Signing Day.
We'll definitely keep our eye on that situation. Let's move on to another out-of-state prospect, wide receiver DeMarcus Lodge, who at one point was a Texas A&M commitment. He's no longer a commitment for Texas A&M, and his current high school quarterback teammate is an LSU commitment. Tell us a little bit about his situation. We haven't heard much about him as of late, and can you see him wearing purple and gold next year, especially with the very crowded, very young and talented wide receiving core at LSU? We'll take a look at that, the current wide receivers for LSU.
And you stated they had a really good signing class last year at Malachi Dupree. Trey Quinn led the group. John Diarse from 2 years ago, who redshirted, who's played significantly well this year as a redshirt freshman. Travin Durrell having a terrific redshirt sophomore year. DJ Chark, another guy with a ton of upside. There's a lot of quality wide receiver prospects on this roster. The thing is each guy has a skill set that is unique to him, that might not be a polished all-around game like Lodge has. Lodge is a guy that can beat you in all 3 levels. He's a great route runner for a high school kid. He can really stretch defense. He's phenomenal after the catch. A guy like Malachi Dupree isn't so good after the catch and has really worked on his underneath route running ability. Lodge might be a little bit ahead of him as far as that learning curve with learning a full route tree. So he would be a nice piece, and when you add a guy like Tyron Johnson as a possible player into the mix, I mean, LSU's really rebuilding this wide receiving core, and I think I saw something yesterday from Michael Bonnet calling them wide receiver U. Every player that started at LSU at wide receiver since 2011 is now on an NFL team, so they're looking to just kind of build on that success.
All right, let's switch gears just a little bit, and we're going to really briefly talk about a few players who don't have LSU offers but maybe should or could, or players who are going to draw a lot of attention towards the end of the season because of the numbers that they're putting up in this year. And we're going to start with Newman running back Kendall Bussey. Tell us a little bit about Bussey.
You know, the state of Louisiana has always got players that kind of emerge from nowhere to become big-time recruits, and then they've also got guys like Bussey that were established but keep building momentum and getting better and better over time, and that's really how you would describe Bussey. He's been phenomenal for the last couple of years for Newman, but in this offseason he really focused on adding mass to his frame so he could run better in between the tackles, and when he added 20 pounds, I was worried, is he going to be as explosive as he's always been? And he's been phenomenal this year. So if LSU were to lose a running back, I could see a guy like Bussey getting a call from Frank Wilson.
And this next one people might find pretty interesting. It's Ponchatoula quarterback Christian Campbell.
Yeah, committed to Georgia Tech. They run an option system, so as a quarterback you'd be a good fit in that system, but he's a phenomenal athlete that gave some spring and summer reps at receiver and some at safety as he looks to possibly move positions at the next level, and LSU's definitely interested in looking at him as a possible safety candidate down the road.
Let's talk about Warren Easton quarterback Deshawn Smith, who is putting up very impressive numbers thus far. Phenomenal
Numbers we've been talking about all week. You know, I remember you just telling me he could be on pace to break some state records. It's phenomenal what he's done this year as a quarterback. Going into the season, a lot of people thought he was a runner first, and a lot of people thought, you know, that Warren Easton might come up a little short because Deshawn might struggle getting the ball to his receivers. Well, that hasn't been the problem thus far. He's been phenomenal. A lot of people look him at as a cornerback prospect, as a slot receiver prospect, but with the way he's throwing the ball this year, one starts to wonder a little bit, is he going to start getting some looks as a possible quarterback at the next level?
2,300 yards, 29 interceptions, 29 touchdowns, and 1 interception. So, and the last one we're talking about is Northside offensive tackle O'Shea Dugas.
Yeah, this is a guy that I think is going to blow up at the end of this year. You know, he's a state championship wrestler, plays with great leverage, really strong, good feet, a little raw in his technique. Hand placement needs work, footwork needs some work, but I mean overall this guy's got the tools, and I think at the end of the day he could be one of the better linemen, if not the best lineman to come out of this class in the state. I mean, he's got that type of upside, but it's all going to be up to him. But whether LSU comes in or not, I think a lot of big schools are going to start throwing their name into the hat late in the recruiting process, and if LSU has a need, if they're not able to fill that need at offensive tackle, I would not be surprised if O'Shea Dugas got a scholarship offer late.
All right, well, there you heard it from James Jimmy Smith, and I think that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to check out all the great recruiting content at NOLA.com/recruiting. I'm Julie Boudwin. That's James Smith. Until the next time, thanks for watching.